Hello there again, fearless gamers. This is Matt the Clown with the 6th episode of Back to Basics. Now, I've discussed the color wheel, I've discussed shadows and light, I've discussed priming and preliminarily assembling, I've discussed base coating, I've discussed washing, and I've briefly touched upon highlighting. I haven't gone incredibly in-depth on any of those subjects, but I think I've given a brief understanding of how those things work. But what I haven't touched upon, and something that is very, very important, is taking care of your brushes. Now, whether you buy the high-quality sable brushes, like the ones that I've been using, these are Robert Simmons White Sable, whether you use those or the less expensive golden Taklon brushes, which is, that's what this is, Synthetic Artist's Loft is the specific brand name. Regardless of whether you use, a high expensive brush or a more economy brush, a more a friendlier priced brush, as it were, I highly recommend you keep your brushes as clean as you can. Now, for a long time, all I would do was take the brush, swish it around in the water when I was done with it, wipe it off, and leave it to dry. And that's acceptable for a little while, but eventually your brush is going to suffer for it. You're not going to get all the paint out, and you're going to end up getting paint stuck here by the metal bit, which is going to cause problems such as brushes that look like this. The bristles are all screwy, and it doesn't even bend over at the metal bit. It's got all this garbagey paint caught in there. This was a brush I ran into the ground specifically because, I kind of wanted a brush that was kind of garbagey to show you. I mean, I have plenty, but whatever. One of the best ways to clean your brushes is to use a product such as this one right here, the Masters Brush Cleaner and Preserver. Now, this is something I only discovered recently, despite the fact that I was an art student for as long as I was, and it works wonders. Now, do you remember in episode, I guess it was episode 4 of of Back to Basics, when I discussed base coating and washing, the brush I was using to do the wash, how it was black bristled and whatever. Well, I ran it through the Masters, and this is what it came out as. I had forgotten that it wasn't a black bristled brush. They make black bristled brushes, so I figured, that's what I have. Nope, this is a a gold bristled brush. This is actually, it doesn't say on the brush exactly what it's made out of, but it wasn't the color that I had thought it was, because I had let it be so full of old paint for so long. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how to use this there goes the cap for it, whatever. This product. It's a white brick. It's hard, but it's kind of like grainy feeling. And all you got to do to clean your brush, this is the brush I just used for my highlighting video that I did a moment ago. You take a little bit of clean water, or as clean as you can get it if you happen to be in an area of the world that doesn't have a lot of clean water, in which case, what are you doing playing Warhammer? And you just swirl it around a bit, and, just kind of get it all up in those bristles, and, just like you're cleaning anything else. And you'll see that it picks up all that beautiful cleaner. You're going to take a clean cloth. I use paper towels. A lot of people use washcloths. I find paper towels to be the more readily available and just generally washing machine more washing machine friendly option. And you're just gonna wipe it off real nice, as thoroughly as you can. And now this brush I had cleaned earlier today, so it didn't get a lot of residue off it. But another thing you should do is run it through real quick, kind of twisting the brush to get that point, because when you're doing a hobby like this, you want as much of a point as you can get. Now, you're not going to get a perfect point if you haven't been cleaning your brushes like this for a while, but when you do eventually buy a new brush, because, well, even with proper care, it's going to have to happen, you're going to be able to preserve that point for quite some time. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to take one of the brushes that I was using years ago, this one, for when I was painting on a more significant level. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to show you probably just how much paint's going to come out of this bad boy. And, you know, you do wide circles if you want to make sure that the thing doesn't degrade in a quicker manner than in one spot versus another. And you can kind of see the thing's looking a little grodier than it was before, and that's okay. It's okay for your soap to look grody, because it's better than your brushes being grody. And if you really hate it, you can go in there with your cloth or a paper towel or your sink and either rinse or wipe that grody bit off, but it doesn't change the effectiveness of the product. I'm going to get in here. Now you saw that brush was black and kind of gray. Now, that was from 4 or 5 years ago, that amount of dirt. So it actually isn't coming out too much cleaner than it went in, or at least not visually so. But you can actually see, well, maybe if I don't block my light source, you can see there's white bristles already showing through. I bet if I sat down with this for about 20-30 minutes, or well, maybe 10 minutes, it would probably come through. But let me also try it with a flat brush, because I like to run this kind of video into the ground. Now, as you can see, I'm just putting some water on there and swishing it around. Now, if you looked at that brush, you saw that it was pinkish, because I was probably painting something pink or red with it, flowers or whatever. And it looks like I'm, you know, it looks like I'm destroying the brush if you really look at it right now. But I swear to you, I'm not. I'm actually fixing it. Because what this stuff acts like is it acts simultaneously like a soap and like a hair conditioner that you put in your hair. And then if you do what I did with this thing, by swirling it around afterward to get the point preserved, it sort of acts like a hair gel, in that it conditions and sets the bristles into the shape that you want it in. Now, yeah, this didn't seem to do a whole lot for the color of this brush, so I'm kind of making a liar out of myself. But I have one other brush that I want to try this with for you that is really in what I like to call piss poor condition. And I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say piss poor condition on this channel. If I'm not, you will have heard the word Smurf instead, because the vet who I mentioned is kind enough to do all my video editing will have edited it out for the sake of being family friendly. Now, this is what it looks like now. A little bit brighter than it was. Now, here's the brush that I wanted to try to see just how far I could get with it. Now, this thing I have put through the ringer. It only bends like halfway down. It's in some really bad condition, but I bet you that those bristles aren't supposed to be as black as they are. So let's see what happens. One thing that I think is cool is if you look at it, it picks up all the color of the paint that's still in that brush. So if you have a lot of black paint in your brush, it'll pick up the black color on the soap, which kind of shows you just how much paint you had in there before you cleaned it, which I think it's a cool effect. I don't know whether or not they intended it to be that way, but you know, it worked out nicely. Now, yeah, this thing is already looking a little bit better Now, this brush, and any brush that's really in poor condition, will never be in good condition again. No matter how hard I clean it, no matter how well I condition it, it's just been too poorly treated. It's just not gonna work out. I'm trying something that you shouldn't try back here. I'm trying to, like, pull the bristles apart down at the base to see if I can get them cleaner. But, Godspeed on that one, right? But yeah, if you have an old brush that you've been beating up, and you just, you doesn't look very good, and you've been using it as a base coat brush because that's all it's good for anymore, that's just fine. In fact, that's kind of what older brushes are for. They're for using for your less exacting tasks. You should, however, still clean it, if you haven't been, to make sure that your old beater brushes don't become old knot brushes and instead just sticks with no bristles in them. Alright, now, hopefully you remember what this bad boy looked like. If not, you can go back, but look at, yeah, see? It's actually, again, a gold bristle brush versus what looked like a black bristle brush a couple of minutes ago. Now, I'm just wiping the cake off because I don't like looking at it when it's all grody like it was a minute ago. But yeah, that's the... Hold on, I was getting the cap. That is the Masters Brush Cleaner and Preserver. It's a really great product. This particular size cost me $6 and change at a Blick. They come in smaller sizes and in larger sizes, but this size, from what I've read, will last you, years, especially doing smaller brushes like we do in this hobby. And that's just one step you can take to combat your brushes going to crap on you quickly. Using just that, you can extend the life of your brushes by quite some time. Now, there are other products that you can use to clean your brushes even further. I'm unfortunately not intimately familiar with them, but you can find any number of other products. There's just cleaning solutions that are out there, but those tend to get a lot more expensive, which is why I didn't bother to show them to you. Because one thing we like to do here at Fearless Games is find you the options that are a little bit more wallet friendly. And, a cleaning solution that you're going to need to use 8 to 10 ounces of from a 32-ounce bottle every time you clean your brushes, and the 32-ounce bottle costs you like $25, that's not really wallet friendly, because that's, $5 every time you want to wash your brushes. One last thing I want to discuss, however, is if you're storing your brushes in, say, a cup or a jar, it's not a good idea to store them with the handle down, because unless you store them that way after they've dried completely, because the bristles are all glued onto the brush in here, in the metal bit, and having water still in there and pointing skyward, with the bristles skyward, all the water goes down here and weakens the glue, and that's when you're going to start losing bristles. I store mine flat. That's not recommended by a lot of professionals, but I don't lose bristles really ever. I haven't lost a bristle from a halfway decent brush ever. And that's letting them dry this way. And then sometimes if I'm traveling or if I just need to free up some space, once they're dry, I'll put them in a cup like that because it's dry and there's no water dripping down. If you're a huge stickler for this kind of thing, if you want to really do it quote-unquote right, then you need to save these little plastic bits that come on the brushes for when they ship them, and put it back on top of your brush every time you're done, and store it bristles down, because that'll allow the water to come down out of there. Now, that said, there is some contention amongst brush enthusiasts about whether or not you should have those plastic things on when they're wet, or if you should have them drying amongst open air. If you don't want them to be enclosed like that while wet, there are products you can buy that are essentially aluminum brush cleaning tubs that have a sort of aluminum coil at the top that you can just plug your brush into, and it'll hang there safely, regardless of whether or not you've got the plastic bit from when you bought it. So you can have it hanging upside down while it dries without having to worry about the tips of your brushes getting all bent, because if you have your brush while it's wet, I'm going to use this one, touching something, just you see bent there. If it's touching something like that while it's bent, while it's wet, once it dries, it's going to be stuck like that. It's not going to be straight anymore, and your brush is going to be pretty much garbage because there's not really any way to unbend it that I've been able to find. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I needed to discuss with you about brush care. If you have any questions, if you have any brush-related questions or cleanliness-related questions, I guess, feel free to put them in the comments. Otherwise, get in touch with us, subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff. Remember that we are on Facebook and Twitter. And until next time, take care.